specials from Amini's. Golden Tea starts at only $99 a month. American-made pool tables and shuffleboard as low as $39 a month. Pinball machines starting at just $139 a month. Visit Amini's showroom floor so you can try before you buy. Invest in your health this year with a brand new infrared sauna. 72 months, no interest financing available on everything. The big game sale at Amini's right now, 105th and Metcalf, or online at aminis.com.
Sunday, the city's biggest big game celebration is at KC Live. It's the Verizon Fan Fest at KC Live. Doors open at 11 a.m. Enjoy an all-day block party featuring a performance by DJ Rehab at 2 p.m. Plus live entertainment, giveaways, and more in front of the biggest screens in KC. GA tickets and premium VIP tables are on sale now. Go to powerandlightdistrict.com/football. Don't miss the biggest big game celebration at KC Live. Tickets to the Verizon Fan Fest at KC Live are on sale now at powerandlightdistrict.com/football.
Xfinity here. How can we help?
Hi. My daughter invited her entire class to her birthday party. Can my Wi-Fi handle it?
Oh, well, at Xfinity, our latest gateways have tri-band Wi-Fi technology, letting you connect hundreds of devices at once.
No way. So if all the kids are watching stuff on their phones, well, their parents are sharing videos online.
Yep, go ahead and watch videos. They can all do their thing and party their way. No problem.
Oh, we are gonna need a bigger cake.
Now through March 4th, get fast, reliable Xfinity Gig Internet for $25 a month for 1 year with no annual contract and Wi-Fi equipment included when you add an unlimited mobile line. And ask how to get an eligible free 5G phone with trade-in. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Restrictions apply. Requires credit bill split and auto pay with stored bank account. Taxes and fees extra. After promo, regular rates apply.
All right, you got about 30 seconds.
Monthly data included with your data option. Data thresholds and actual internet speeds vary.
As a pro athlete, I understood how devastating an injury could be. Injured athletes need staff that played the sport and understand the rehab process. Those professionals and that place is Boost Physical Therapy and Sports Performance. At Boost, you'll find state-of-the-art training equipment, a full indoor volleyball court, and a spacious turf training area. You can sign up for classes or clinics or schedule your rehab appointments. Just visit boostkc.com. With 5 locations in the metro, Boost Physical Therapy and Sports Performance has you covered from the point of injury to the field of play.
KCFX HD4 Harrisonville, K279PI Kansas City, 103.7 FM. Sports Radio 810 WHB, Kansas City.
America's largest all-sports radio station presents the #1 motorsports show for over 2 decades, Track Talk, brought to you by Rod-In Supply and the Power Ride Midwest Lightning Sprints. Here are the racing boys, Scott Traylor and Kirk Elliott.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Track Talk here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jay running the show back there at Sports Radio 810 WHB, and Todd running the show here at RBN, the Race Boys Broadcasting Network. My partner for 25 years, Kirk Elliott. Kirk, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It is February, which means we got a lot of racing going on.
Right.
I love it. Bring it on.
Can you
Speed Weeks is here.
Can you believe that Emerson Axsom spun out leading the race? Can you believe that?
Yeah. Do you think he slept at all that night?
I don't think he slept at all that night.
That was on Thursday night at Volusia Speedway Park. Night 2 of the World of Outlaws. Christopher Bell ended up holding off Kyle Larson for the win that night, but it was Emerson Axsom race to lose. And I'm not sure he would have hung on to the lead there at the end, Scott, because Bell and Larson were coming on strong there. Do you think he still would have hung on had he not spun out there? I'm not sure about that. He was in position to win that race, but he looped it down in turn number 4, and that was that.
Hey, Kirk, that the finish of that race was really close, 0.05 of a second.
Yeah. Bell holds off Larson.
Right.
Now, last night it was a different story. Kyle Larson wins over Bell. And that's the first Gator that Larson has ever won at Volusia Speedway Park. First time he's ever won a feature race at Volusia.
How many times did he run second? About 3 times?
I think so.
Right.
But it was a big win for Young Money last night. And Seabell finished the second, and David Gravel was third. And all David Gravel had to say after his third-place finish, he said, when you see Larson and Bell on the front row, what are you going to do?
You know, I thought Christopher Bell was going to give him a better run than he did last night. Did you think so?
Well, I just think that once Larson is out in front of any race, it's going to be hard to pass him, even if you're Christopher Bell. It's going to be hard to get around him.
You know, when Kyle Larson starts on the pole, it's usually lights out for everybody else, isn't it?
He led every lap last night. You remember the Knoxville Nationals last year?
Right.
They drew the number 1, which meant that they got the first qualifying run at the Nationals out, and he qualified well right out of the gate. And when you qualify well, not just at the Knoxville Nationals, but anywhere in these World of Outlaw races, you're going to be hard to beat. And you give Kyle Larson a good qualifying run, starts up front, wins the dash, starts on the pole of the A main, it's pretty much lights out. Unless he has some kind of mechanical issue, which he did not have last
David
night.
Gravel said as much last night after the race when he finished third. He said anytime that those two guys start on the front row, it's lights out for him. Everybody else, isn't it?
That's it. So that's been Larson's biggest issue when he's not won these World of Outlaw races.
Right.
He starts off the night poor, doesn't get a good qualifying run, and then he has to come from deep in the pack to try to win, and that's hard for anybody to do. The competition level of these World of Outlaws races, even the high-limit races, if you don't qualify well and get yourself into the dash, to expect to come from the back half of the field and win these races, that's very hard to do. So you got to qualify well, and Larson and Bell both have done that the last couple of nights, and you see the results right there.
Logan Schuchart, he ended up running 8th. He started 19th.
He's running a lot better, isn't he?
Right.
He's already had a podium finish, and they made some changes on their crews. Got a new crew chief over there at Shark Racing. You remember last year, Logan Schuchart struggled much of the season. But I think they're off to a really good start, and they've got to be really happy with the way the 1S is running right now based on what they did last year. They got to be really encouraged about where they're headed in that Shark Racing 1S team.
You know, it looked like Danny Sams III was going to give it Kyle Larson a run there for a minute, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's doing pretty well.
He was fast qualifier last night.
Yeah, and he was running up in the top 5. He faded there.
He ended up running 10th.
Yeah, got back to 10th place when it was all over with. But, the situation with Danny Sams III going for the Rookie of the Year is one of a number of drivers going for Rookie of the Year honors in the World of Outlaws this year. He got himself in some pretty good position starting these races, but he's learning. He's a young talent, but it's like anything else. You got to race with these guys for a while before you
get up
put
there and
yourself
run with
in,
them
and get the good finishes that you need in order to get yourself up towards the top of the points.
Kirk, were you a little disappointed in Blackjack Brian Brown last night? He ended up running 11th. He started 8th. He ended up going backwards, and he ended up running 11th. Were you a little surprised by that?
Yeah, a little, but I'm on the other hand a little more encouraged about where Brian is right now. He's got good horsepower in his car. He's qualifying well. He's putting himself into the dash, and he's getting himself into position where he can win these races. He just needs to get himself in a position where he can finish off up front. But I think he's running better than he did last year.
Right.
I think so. And when you get yourself off to a good start, I think Brian's off to a pretty decent start in terms of how his car's running.
Right.
Yeah, would he like to have a better finish than 11th place last night after starting 8th? I suppose so. But I think all in all, he's got to be encouraged about where he's headed with that 21 car this year. I would be.
Well, I'm shocked that he started 8th and he ended up running 11th. I'm just blown away by that.
Better to start 8th than start outside the A-main. I mean, there's 49 cars down there last night. Only 24 can make actually, there was 27 cars in the A-main last night with the extra provisionals going on. But if you get yourself qualified and put yourself into position to get good finishes like Brian has done,
right,
I would be encouraged by that.
But in the dash, he run 8th
Yeah.
in the dash.
Well, you talk about he started 8th and finished 8th. When you start on the outside of the 4th row of the dash,
right,
it's going to be hard to win that dash against who you're racing against. I mean, Kyle Larson started 2nd in the dash and won, and C. Bell drew the number 1 pill in the dash and finished 2nd. So when those guys drawn 1 and 2 in the dash, it's going to be hard to find your way up and battle with those guys for the front row. Brian Brown started outside the 4th row of the dash and ended up 8th. So I don't know how much more you could have expected when he's racing against guys like Carson Macedo, David Gravel, Brad Sweet.
Did you ever notice that they never mention about Brad Sweet winning the High Limit Series championship last night? Did you
I'm not
notice
surprised
that?
about that at all. The
Johnny,
World of Outlaws race we're talking about here.
Right.
The World of Outlaws announcers Johnny Gibson and Connor Wade are probably not going to be concerned about where Brad Sweet raced last year and won the High Limit Championship. Don't you think? It's all about the World of Outlaws to those guys.
I would agree.
I'm not surprised they didn't mention that at all.
I would agree with you on that, Kirk.
They did mention that he was a 5-time World of Outlaws champion,
They
though.
did. They did mention that.
But as far as being last year's High Limit champion, now
they're not going to mention that.
They're not going to mention that. So, anyway, it's a tough crowd down at Volusia Speedway Park. When you add Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell to the mix, it's really going to be difficult. But a couple of guys that really stood out to me last night are Ryan Timms and Bill Balog. Balog ends up in 7th place last night after starting 13th. We already talked about Logan Schuchart starting 19th and ends up 8th, but Ryan Timms, a great finish for him, 7th starting spot and ends up 5th in that number 10 car. Watch out for Ryan Timms. He's going to have a great year.
That kid's got a lot of
car.
talent.
Yeah.
Doesn't he?
He does.
I think that Ryan Timms is the next up-and-coming driver. Would you agree with me on that, Kirk?
Yeah, I mean, look how he's already a veteran driver. Was he barely 20 now? How old is Ryan Timms right now?
I think
it seems like he's been racing for 10 years already.
Right.
But he's a great young talent. We've talked about Ryan Timms for a number of years now, and he's going to focus in on the Winged 410 cars. We saw what they could do in that 10 car last year at the end of the season. Ryan Timms jumped in that ride and immediately was successful. We saw him a couple of those high limit races at the end of the year at I-70 and Lucas Oil Speedway. They had some great runs in that car, and that looked like a pretty magical combination for Ryan Timms. So I expect him to really have a good year.
Hey, are you a little disappointed that they're not going to go up to US 36 Raceway with the World of Outlaws this year?
Yeah, I'm surprised because we thought that they had the World of Outlaws date up there in late March and early April. But that weekend that they're supposed to be at 81 Speedway in Lawton, I think they had tentatively scheduled them to come to US 36 on a Sunday night. And Sunday night in late March at US 36 Raceway, that's that I think World of Outlaws officials thought that was a pretty difficult call. That's what they said. The reason why that didn't show up on the calendar, but I'm thinking more so, we lost Mike Franks, the owner of US 36 Raceway, late last year, that might have something to do with it too. Let's hope the World of Outlaws does come back. I think they're open to even bringing in High Limit at US 36 in the future. So I still think we're going to see some big-time sprint car racing at US 36, but it is disappointing that we're not seeing the Outlaws up there like we have the last couple of years.
Donnie Schatz, he started 25th. He ended up running 17th. He had to take a provisional to get into the race, didn't he?
Yeah, and, it's, we've talked about Donnie the last couple of years, the inconsistency with that Ford Power. He's won, when they first brought in the Ford engine, he was really good on the big half-mile racetracks. The combination of the Ford Power was really good on the big tracks, but he did win on the shorter tracks. Last year, he did win on a short track, and so it looked like they'd start to get a handle on the power being a little bit more consistent. But Donnie is working with a different crew this year. He don't have his, he's got a new crew chief now. Scuba, his old crew chief, no longer with the team, so he's working through. His old car chief is now the crew chief, and changed around some of the crew members on that car, and so Donnie's going through a few changes right now. And my guess is they'll get things sorted out, and Donnie will win some races this year like he always does.
He does.
Is he going to be consistent enough to be a championship contender? I'm not going to say that. I think you still got to go through David Gravel and Carson Macedo to win that championship. But I still predict that Donnie Schatz will win a few races. But I think you got to give him a little bit of time here to get things sorted out with the new crew chief.
I think that Garrett Williamson, he started 18th. He ended up running 22nd. But
yeah, I mean, he's learning. Garrett Williamson, another one of the Rookie of the Year contenders on the World of Outlaws Tour. We've seen Garrett do very well the last couple of years. His growth pattern has been very rapid over the last couple of years. Remember, he won a couple of races up at Knoxville last year and up at Houston Speedway. But you go to the World of Outlaws Tour, that's a whole different ball game. So they're going to struggle at times this year, but I expect Garrett to also have his big moments as well.
Were you a little surprised about Anthony Macri blowing that right rear tire early in the race? I think that some of the brake calipers that were out there on the racetrack cut his tire.
That could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised that
Chris Wyndham's brake calipers came off.
Yeah, I saw that. And Anthony, you think that's what Anthony got into down in turn 4 when he got up into the wall? Yeah, that was
he knocked the front end out.
That was a bad moment. Anthony Macri, he's struggled down there this weekend, trying to get a handle on things in that 39 car, and he was the victim of. I'm surprised there weren't more tire issues at Volusia. Those guys go so fast down there; they're putting a lot of load on that right rear. Are you surprised that we didn't have more tire issues?
I'm a little surprised that they didn't have more tire issues because that track was slicked off, and it looked like it was going to take a little rubber before it was all said and done.
But it didn't.
It didn't.
I mean, it's been they've done, and we talked to Connor Wade about this, and we'll hear him coming up a little bit later on in the show when we had him on Monday's show. The track prep at Volusia Speedway Park over the last 2 or 3 years has been really good. I mean, they've really improved the racing quality at Volusia Speedway Park. Hasn't always been that way, but they brought some new people in to prep the racetrack down there. And I would say over the last 3 years, the racing surface at Volusia Speedway Park has been pretty good. It's a fast racetrack. Big, wide half mile.
You know, they say it's the world's fastest half mile dirt track.
I'm not ready to say that.
I'm not ready to say that either because I think Eldora is probably the fastest half mile. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. You know, it's got the thing about Volusia, the turns are really wide and sweeping. I mean, you don't really let up at Volusia Speedway Park, but to call it the fastest half mile, I'm not ready to give it that moniker.
I-70 was maybe one of the fastest half miles,
especially when it was paved.
Yeah,
the paved I-70 Speedway.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I won a couple races out there.
You did.
Yeah.
In a modified.
Yep.
That sleek, beautiful Praxair Modified.
Yep.
Number 16.
Number 16.
I saw you win a couple out there.
Yep.
But anyway, we'll see what happens tonight. Bigger money on the line at Volusia Speedway Park. We'll see if Larson and Bell continue what they've been doing the last 2 or 3 nights, or does Gravel sweep Macedo. Now, Carson Macedo did win a race earlier in the week on Wednesday night. Carson Macedo with a broken leg wins the feature event on Wednesday night. You got to be encouraged about that if you're a fan of the 41 Jason Johnson team. Carson Macedo breaks his leg in Australia, is hobbling around on crutches here just a week or 2 ago. He comes back. After he wins, he crawls out of his car and he's still limping. No wing dance for Carson Macedo on Wednesday night. He doesn't crawl up on the wing. He's got that broken leg. But, boy, that surprised me a little bit that he was able to go from start to finish without any issues with that broken leg and win the feature on Wednesday night. So Macedo, I think, is going to be a real contender to David Gravel for this championship this year.
You know, Brock Zierfoss, they never showed the replay of him hitting the wall.
I never saw it.
Mm-mm.
This was last night?
Last night.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
They didn't show the replay of him
Usually
hitting
what
the
I
wall.
do if they don't show a replay, of course they didn't have the video of it when it did happen. But a lot of times if they don't show the replay, I just roll the video back and watch it again.
Right.
But in this case, they didn't really have the camera on when Brock got turned around.
Well, he's a hell of a race car driver.
Brock Zierfoss?
Yep.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to be in that 3Z car. We've seen him shine at times. No question about that. Buddy Kofoid, he was a championship-level racer at the end of the year last year, Buddy Kofoid.
Right.
He won a bunch of races, but it seems like he's gotten off to a little bit of a slow start down at Volusia this time, doesn't he?
Right.
Are you concerned about that? The Roth 83 car had to run the last chance showdown last night. He finished second in that race, was able to get in to the A main last night. But are you surprised we haven't seen better performance out of the 83 car with Buddy Kofoid so far this week?
You know, Buddy started 22nd and he ended up running 14th.
Yeah. He did move up through the field, but when you have to come out of the B main and start as far back as you did in the A, I guess getting as high as 14th is about what you're going to get. If you start 22nd and end up 14th, then
that's pretty good.
On that racetrack, I think it's pretty good. But Logan Schuart started 19th and ended up 8th. So there were a couple of guys that were able to maneuver their way up through the field.
I think the most disappointing race was for Danny Sams III, because he was challenging Kyle Larson there for a moment, wasn't he?
Yeah, but, as it turns out,
he went backwards.
He faded a little bit. So I'm going to cut him some slack. Danny Sams III has not been a regular World of Outlaw driver.
He was fast qualifier last night.
He's on a learning curve right now, but he qualified well last night, which put himself in great position. The last couple of nights, he's qualified very well.
Yeah.
But when you start racing with these guys up there, it's a whole new ball game. Danny Sams, remember, made a name for himself at Ohio Sprint Week last year. Won a bunch of races up there, but when you elevate yourself to the World of Outlaws, I'm going to cut Danny Sams a little bit of slack, get into the season, then we'll see how things go. He's a good driver, though. Great talent, Danny Sams, as are a lot of these World of Outlaw contenders.
All right, we're going to take a break here on Track Talk. It's all brought to you by Rod End Supply, featuring the POWRi Midwest Lightning Sprints. ESPN's coming up after our show, right, Kirk?
9 o'clock?
Yep.
Yeah, so check that out. Of course, we're thinking about the Chiefs here in Kansas City. Can they do it again? Can they make history tomorrow? 3 in a row. Nobody's ever done it. Are they going to do it?
I'm going to say yes.
So I'm sure a lot of talk about that after the show. So we're here until 9 o'clock. We have Hour 2 exclusively on Racing Boys, our Facebook page and YouTube page, coming up in the 9 o'clock hour. But we got a lot of things to talk about here. Carl Edwards going into the Hall of Fame last night. We got to talk about that. Late model racing at Ocala Speedway. Good racing up there. We'll talk about that here on this morning's show. And NASCAR, the Daytona 500, 1 week from tomorrow.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, Justin Peck's going to join us here. We got 2 segments of Justin Peck. We're going to play one segment in hour number 1, and we're going to play the second segment in hour number 2. Connor Wade is also going to join us. We're going to play a segment with him in hour number 1, and hour number 2, 13 minutes is going to be the length of the
with Justin Peck or with Connor Wade?
Connor Wade.
Connor Wade's going
There
to
we
be
go.
13
So
minutes.
Talk to both those. Oh, also Ray Cunningham live, hour 2. He's going to go into the Carb Hall of Fame. Ray Cunningham, great historian, and he knows everything about open wheel racing. He's going to join us live in hour 2, so stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned. We'll be back with more right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB in a moment. Stay tuned.
Track Talk. Rod End Supply is involved with a variety of motorsports as well as industrial applications with many different types of products. Since 1989, Rod End Supply has provided superior products priced competitively. Whether you're racing at the circle track or drag strip, rock climbing, or going off-road, Rod End Supply is
4 minutes, gentlemen.
and specialty products to keep your equipment moving. Rod End Supply's experienced staff is ready and willing to help you with your needs. Their promise is to continue to provide a superior product with superior service so you can stay in front of the field no matter what it is. To learn more, go to rodendsupply.com.
The Hilton President Hotel, the official hotel partner of New Day with SSJ. Opened in 1927, the Hilton President is the only hotel in the Power and Light District, just steps from T-Mobile Center. Looking for a place to stay downtown? The Hilton President has Starbucks coffee on site off the lobby, 213 rooms and suites, and plenty of on-site parking. Call 816-221-9490 or go online to HiltonPresidentsHotel.com. The official hotel partner of New Day with SSJ, the Hilton President Hotel.
This weekend, From the Earth Dispensaries has the deals you've been waiting for. From Friday, February 7th to Sunday, February 9th, take 20% off all illicit concentrates and elevate your experience. And here's something extra sweet. Spend $100 and get a free pack of 100 milligram illicit gummies. It's the perfect excuse to treat yourself. Don't miss out. Stop by From the Earth or visit FTEMO.com to snag these incredible offers.
Hello, it's Mark Whitlow from Office Products Alliance. As we embark on our 32nd year of serving our local community, OPA would like to say thank you, Kansas City. Supporting local businesses and our community is more important than ever. Small business is the heart of our city and country. OPA has branched out into the cabling and IT space. These two offerings partner well with our core business, office products and office furniture. Check out our new opportunities at opakc.com. Let's keep it local, KC.
Transform your home into a serene oasis with a pro-built pool and patio sunroom. Their expertly crafted sunrooms offer breathtaking views, natural light, and year-round comfort. Whether you're relaxing, entertaining, or simply enjoying the beauty of nature, their sunrooms are the perfect addition to your home. Visit them at 4708 Northwest Gateway Avenue in Riverside to see their stunning selection. Pro-built pool and patio, where your dream living space comes to life.
President's Day is bringing historic savings to Big O Tires right now through February 27th. When you buy 3 Big O brand tires, get the 4th one free. Big O brand tires offer improved all-terrain traction and tread to keep you safe. And don't forget about their healthy car special. That's an oil change, tire rotation, and more for just $39.95. Big O Tires also offers services on alignments, shocks, struts, batteries, and more, all with multiple financing options to fit any budget. Make an appointment right now at BigOTires.com. Big O Tires, the team you trust.
Curiosity is a powerful force. CBD American Shaman is proud to support the growing Sober Curious movement, a lifestyle that prioritizes mindfulness, connection, and intentional choices. Whether you are exploring a wellness path or simply seeking new ways to unwind, their high-quality hemp-derived products may complement your journey. Visit your local CBD American Shaman to get a free 810 gift. Their knowledgeable staff is there to help you explore how CBD might fit into your wellness routine, because life is better with the feather. CBD American Shaman, hemp-derived wellness products for your unique lifestyle.
Winter is here. Plan now to keep those bugs out with Augustine Services. Now is the time to establish and or maintain a barrier around your house. Don't let it break down. Augustine has you covered. Augustine Services has been a family-owned local business since 1966. Call Augustine Services today at 913-359-8627 or find them online at AugustineExterminators.com. That's 913-359-8627. Online at AugustineExterminators.com.
Kick off your Super Bowl Sunday with the best coverage right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. At 9 a.m., it's Chiefs Tailgate. Then at 10, Soren Petro takes over with the Central Bank of the Midwest pregame show. At 1, it's Westwood One's Super Bowl pregame show. And at 5, Sports Radio 810 presents live coverage of Super Bowl 59 with Kevin Harlan on the call. After the game, we're back with Red and Gold postgame. It's all on your home for the NFL and Super Bowl 59, Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Welcome back. Track Talk is brought to you by Rod End Supply, featuring the POWRi Midwest Lightning Sprints. Kirk, we had a chance to talk to Justin Peck here.
He swept the weekend last weekend for the ASCS National Tour at Volusia Speedway Park, won every night, and now he's racing full-time on the High Limit Series for Rudine Racing. Landed that ride here over the off-season. This week you'll see him with the World of Outlaws down at Volusia Speedway Park, where he's been racing. On Monday's Mostly Motorsports show, we spoke with Justin Peck and all about his new ride with Rudine Racing, and here's part one of that conversation. Boy, there was a lot of question just where you would end up this year. Rudine Racing seems like this has been a successful start for you so far. How did it all come together with you with Rudine?
Well, I had a plan. I was going to go drive a different car. The plan was I was going to finish out the High Limit season in the Booth Motorsports 13 and then, jump in my new ride right after that and, go run World Finals and stuff. And that fell through right at the end of the High Limit season, so I was kind of scrambling and searching. Luckily I was out at Trophy Cup racing for Clayton Snow, and Rudine was out there with Trey Starks racing, and, just kind of went up to Tyler and talked to Tyler a little bit, just seeing what they were going to do for the next season. And that ended up with me going to lunch with Kevin Rudine and Tyler later on that weekend, and we struck a deal and went and had a good run at Charlotte, and so decided that we were going to give it a shot.
So what is the plans for you this year? Are you going to run an outlaw schedule, or what's the plans?
High Limit, isn't it?
High Limit?
Yeah. Our plans to run High Limit full time, and then we'll hit and miss some outlaw stuff and some of the bigger other races that are around the country. So I don't think we're going to be taking too many weekends off.
All right, you're racing at Volusia. That's a very fast racetrack. You got Ford Power there. Just was it horsepower, or was it the setup of the race car?
Well, I think it was a little bit of everything. Our 360 stuff is still Chevy stuff. That was a Charlie Fisher 360 that we had in, man, it rips. I can't say enough about that thing. It's a good power plant, but all in all, my race car was pretty hooked up every time we hit the racetrack. So, it made it a little easier on me when, I could pretty much put the car wherever I wanted to.
So we won't see the Ford Power until you jump in the 410 this week, right?
Yes, sir.
And you were going to go for you got a test coming up today?
Yeah, we're going to go over to Alltech and do a little testing with the Ford engines.
So are there plans to run any more ASCS races this year?
As of now, not really. I think the plan is we're going to probably run the Knoxville 360 Nationals. But outside of that, I'm not sure. with the with the high limit schedule the way it is, it's takes up most of our time, and then just I think outside of that, like I said, we'll probably just hit and miss some of the outlaw stuff, the ones we can go to, and obviously we'll be at all the crown jewels as well.
Are you excited to run the high limit series this year?
Yeah. I mean, I've got 1 year of it under my belt already, so I feel confident going back in there and racing with those guys. I mean, we were able to pick off one win last year, and that was the only win I got all year long. And now we're sitting with 3, so I think we're going in there with a little bit more confidence.
I'm sorry to ask, but where was that win at? Eldora. Yep.
Another fast racetrack, too. You like these big, high-speed half miles, don't you?
Truthfully, I'm more of a boring guy, but you wouldn't know that by my track record lately.
Let's talk about what happened over the weekend. Clearly, you had the fastest race car. It was a stellar field of racers you were up against down there, even though it was 360. Just kind of talk about what you might learn from this past weekend. You got a different, you're going into the rest of this week. It's totally different with the 410s and the Ford Power. These 360s race different. Is there anything you can take out of here from this past weekend that will carry forward when you jump in the 410s this weekend?
Yeah, truthfully, going from the Charlotte at the end of last year with the 410 stuff, and then go fast forward into now with being at Volusia with the 360, we really didn't change a whole lot with the race car. I mean, just kind of kept the same balance and the same program for the most part, and just maybe tweaked it a little here or there just to compensate for the the heavier engine and a little less power. But truthfully, it's overall the same package. So I think we're going to kind of go into this weekend with the 410 stuff pretty much about right where we left off, last weekend with the 360s. So I think it was kind of nice to come down here and be able to race, the same race car I'm going to race next week. You know what I mean? It's not like I had a 360 ride and then I'm getting in a completely different car for the 410 stuff. We're keeping the same car, just swapping engines out, and going to try to recreate that balance again because it was pretty nice.
The 410s are a little bit different. You have a little more horsepower. You're able to break the wheels loose a little bit, but the 360 sprint cars are more about momentum, aren't they?
Yeah, I'd say so. It just seems like the 410 stuff just got a little bit more power, so they can get you out of trouble a little bit easier. And Volusia in itself is just a momentum racetrack anyway, but it's definitely elevated more with the 360s. It seems like if you break your momentum in the 360 stuff, it takes you an extra, it takes you a lap and a half to get it back, whereas like with the 410 stuff, it takes about a corner to get your momentum back.
Right.
You started 8th on Saturday night. You had a little bit of work to do. It didn't seem like, a little past the halfway mark. You had the lead in that race. What were you thinking about coming from the 8th starting spot on Saturday night?
And passing Blackjack Brian Brown as well.
I knew the key to that was going to be getting a good start. And in my mind, if I could if I could jump a row on the start, that would probably be a pretty good way to go about it and try going forward. But by the time we came out of turn 2, we were already sitting in 4th on lap 1. So just worked out pretty well. I kind of wanted to run the top anyway, and it seemed like those guys in front of me kind of went in there fighting for the bottom, and was able to pick those guys off pretty quick. And then got to Hafertepe and McCarl, who were racing each other, so was able to capitalize on that and carry some momentum and got around Hafertepe. And then once we caught traffic, Brown and McCarl then started racing, and just had to be patient, just had to pick the right time and set the right gaps, especially down at Volusia. It seems like dirty air can, make or break in. Our car seemed to be really, really good in dirty air. So for me, it was just about setting up my timing and making those moves count. Cause if you show a nose to McCarl and Brown, they're not going to just let you pass them easy. So if you're going to show them the nose, you better make it count.
Right. To be honest with you, lap cars were kind of a pain in the butt a little bit, weren't they?
Yeah, it's tough, man, because, like I said, once you get your momentum broken, it's so hard to get going again. And, being out front, you're carrying all the momentum, and those guys that are, mid-pack or in the back of the pack, I mean, they're all racing each other and breaking the momentum, it seems like, every corner. So
right.
You can be coming up on them pretty quick, man. It seems like some of them gone an hour faster then.
Did you have to manage your tires? A couple of guys had some tire issues, right rears going down. How much mind was that as you were getting to the checkered flag?
Was your right rear slicked off?
No, actually, we had really, really good tire wear all weekend. we got a new tire guy, A-Rod, and he put the Super Tune on him. He got the Simple Green out and scrubbed him pretty good.
Did they give you a gator each night?
Yeah, I got a little gator each night, and then I got the big gator for the overall championship.
Right.
Getting together with Rudine, they struggled a little bit last year. I don't think they met the expectations that they were looking for a year ago. For you to step in this car and do what you're doing so far, just what has been the reaction of your guys on the race team, of how quickly you've been able to succeed right out of the gate?
Yeah, I think we're all pretty excited about it. I kind of going back to what you said a second ago. I didn't feel like mine were met either on my side of things with the team I was driving for at that time as well. So I think we both kind of came into it just hungry to win and wanting to get better and be competitive night in and night out. So just kind of applying that mindset in everything that we're doing, whether it be tires or building wings or just even something as simple as keeping the trailer clean. I mean, we're doing it to the best of our abilities, and I think it's paying off. If you can, try to be as perfect as you can in every little aspect of the team, it just carries you on the racetrack as well.
After sweeping the weekend last weekend at Volusia Speedway Park, Justin Peck has had a couple of top 10 finishes with the World of Outlaws this week. Wednesday night, he finished 10th, 8th place on Thursday night. Last night, 18th place after finishing 17th. So Justin Peck, in his first full season with Rudine Racing, off to a pretty good start so far. So he'll be full-time with the High Limit Racing. That starts in mid-March out in Las Vegas. So thanks for Justin Peck for joining us. We've got some more of Justin Peck coming up in hour 2.
Ricky Thornton Jr. picked up the win at Ocala, didn't he?
Led all the laps last night, didn't he? I guess that's another thing. You put RTJ up on the front row, he's going to be hard to beat. And but that hasn't always been the case, though. Last weekend at Alltech, RTJ started up front and got into the Ute tire and up into the wall. So he didn't finish that race, so it's not always the case that RTJ starts up front and wins, but most times, as we saw last night, Ricky Thornton Jr. starting up front is a pretty lethal combination, and he pulled off the win. Other guys that have won this week down at Ocala Speedway are Jonathan Davenport. He won back-to-back on Wednesday and Thursday nights after Devin Moran won on Tuesday night. Pretty good action down at Ocala Speedway. I thought the racing up at Alltech was just great last weekend.
Hudson O'Neill finished second. Devin Moran finished third. And Bobby Pierce finished fourth. Jonathan Davenport finished fifth.
Pierce just showed up last night.
Right.
So he hasn't been there all week. He raced last night and will be there tonight. Of course, Bobby Pierce going for the World of Outlaws title. They'll be at Volusia Speedway Park next week, so we'll see Bobby Pierce down there for that. Yeah, when you add Bobby Pierce into the mix, that makes it even more difficult to try to win against these late model guys.
All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Connor Wade is going to join us next here on our Track Talk, and we're going to play segment number 2 of Justin Peck in hour number 1. We just played hour number 2, and Connor Wade is going to be joining us in hour number 2 as well.
He is the pit reporter for Dirt Vision's coverage of the World of Outlaws, so he'll give us a take on everything, more of a preview of the World of Outlaws, because we spoke with him on Monday, so we'll hear part 1 of that interview coming up in the next hour. Also, we got to talk about Carl Edwards going into the Hall of Fame,
right?
Too, so we'll get that in here before the top of the hour.
All right, Track Talk is brought to you by Rod End Supply, featuring the Power Ride Midwest Lightning Sprints. We'll be back with more Track Talk right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB in a moment. Stay tuned.
Track Talk. Rod End Supply is involved with a variety of motorsports as well as industrial applications with many different types of products. Since 1989, Rod End Supply has provided superior products priced competitively. Whether you're racing at the circle track or drag strip, rock climbing, or going...
3 minutes, gentlemen, 3 minutes.
10-4.
rods and specialty products to keep your equipment moving. Rod End Supply's experienced staff is ready and willing to help you with your needs. Their promise is to continue to provide a superior product with superior service so you can stay in front of the field no matter what it is. To learn more, go to rodendsupply.com.
Have you played Pick 6 from DraftKings? You better get on it. It's Super Bowl 59. The last time to play NFL Pick 6 this season. As the official daily fantasy sports partner of the NFL, DraftKings does fantasy sports like no one else. Play for better payouts on Pick 6. It's super easy to get started. Select 2 or more players. Choose if they'll have more or less of a stat, like touchdowns, yardage, sacks, and more. And DraftKings is making it even sweeter for first-timers. New Pick 6 customers play $5 to get $59 in Pick 6 credits. Win more cash on Pick 6. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app and use code 810WHB. That's code 810WHB for new customers to play $5 and get $59 in Pick 6 credits. Only on DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. One per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Paid for client portrayal and endorsement. Choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Past results afford no guarantee of future results, and every case is different and must be judged on its own merits.
I got hurt in a car wreck. Give me one good reason why I should call DM Law.
How about 3 great reasons you should call us? 1, it's easy. You can hire us today on your phone. 2, it's fast. We can start helping you today. 3, the results.
After my wreck, DM Law got me $200,000. Mike's got this.
Call me. I've got this.
816-888-7500. Mike's got this.
At B&B Theaters, enjoy the way movies are meant to be seen on the big screen.
56:33 is going to be your out. I'll give you 60 seconds before.
10-4.
Entertainment for the whole family this February with films like Captain America Brave New World, Love Hurts, Hard Eyes, The Unbreakable Boy, Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, Last Breath, and more. Many locations across the metro, the big screen is the best way to enjoy the magic of the movies. Tickets, showtimes, and the chance to sign up for the free Backstage Pass loyalty program all online at bbtheaters.com.
Hey, this is Stephen St. John for Window Nation. This February, you can miss Groundhog Day, President's Day, and even Valentine's Day. Well, some of you probably shouldn't miss Valentine's Day, but don't miss your chance from Window Nation to save 60% off all window styles and pay nothing for 2 years, only from Window Nation. This offer ends February 28th, so you'll want to schedule your free in-home consultation right now at 866-90NATION or visit windownation.com.
The holidays are over, and now it's time to start paying off your bills. Paymore is the best place to turn your old electronics into cold, hard cash. If you've got some new electronics over the holidays, great. Bring in the old ones and turn them into cash right away at Paymore. They include a free data wipe, whether they purchase or recycle your old tech. Paymore now has 2 locations, 135th in Antioch and Overland Park, and 1415 Douglas in Lee Summit. Paymore, the smart place to buy, sell, and trade electronics.
Welcome back to Track Talk here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Don't forget, hour number 2, you can watch it on YouTube, Racing Boys, and Facebook. Kirk, you want to talk about the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum?
Yes, we do. The National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum, again, has the Corvette sweepstakes for 2025, and you can register to win this Corvette. It's a beautiful competition yellow Corvette ZR1 with the ZTK performance package, 1,054 horsepower. That engine puts out. It's a beautiful car. You can win it.
More than you can handle.
More than I can handle. I can handle it, right?
About 1,000 more than you need, Kurt.
Anyway, you can win this car. All you have to do is register to go to winacorvette.org to get signed up. They're going to draw for this the week after the Knoxville National, so you got plenty of time to register. You can register as many times as you want. And it's all for a great cause, the betterment of the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum. The Dennis Allbaugh Suite Tower is under construction right now. It's on the opposite side of the main building from where the Brian Clausen Suite Tower sits. And it's going to be open. They say it's going to be done by the time the season starts in April when the World of Outlaws opens up the season up at the Knoxville Raceway, changes the whole look in Turn 2 with that new Dennis Hallbaugh Suite Tower. And you can check out the Hall of Fame today. It's open 7 days a week. National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum, just outside Turn 2 at the Knoxville Raceway. Don't forget to check out all the great items in the gift shop. Go to SprintCarStuff.com to see all the great things. National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum. On Monday's Mostly Motorsports show, we spoke with Connor Wade, who is the pit reporter for the Dirt Vision's coverage of the World of Outlaws, gave us a preview coming in of this week's action at the Volusia Speedway Park. And here is part one of our conversation about what to expect in 2025 in the World of Outlaws, NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car Series. Connor Wade.
Hey, were you surprised that Justin Peck, we just had him on the air, were you surprised that he swept the weekend? Were you surprised by that?
I don't know if surprise is a good word. It definitely was cool to see for him. I think Justin's one of the most talented sprint car drivers in the sport today. And, obviously Radine's a team that's kind of had its struggles a little bit, and Justin's had his own ups and downs as well. But, man, they've just really clicked, and they show up to the track, and you see them interact with each other at their trailer, and you walk into that pit area, and it doesn't seem like a new team. It seems like guys that have been doing it for 3, 4, 5 years together. So I'm impressed by what they've done already. Even going back to World Finals last year, on the podium a couple times, and then of course you throw in the wins this week. So what they're going to face the rest of the year, of course, DCN with the Outlaws, and then the high limit schedule is a completely different ball game than 360s at Volusia. But off to a promising start, and hopefully some momentum for those guys. But I'm really happy for all of them. A great group of guys, and I think they'll be fun to watch all year.
What's the format this way? Is it just 4 individual nights of racing? How does that work?
For the sprint cars?
Yes.
Yeah, so 4 individual nights of racing, Wednesday through Saturday. Wednesday for the season is a non-points night.
Oh, okay.
So we don't actually have our first official points race until Thursday. And the reason they're doing that is because they didn't, instead of doing a practice night this year, they just decided to make the first race a non-points night. Volusia's tough on motors. If somebody goes out there and runs 10, 20 laps of practice, that's another feature, another half a feature they've got on their motors. So save the teams a little bit in that department, make it a little easier on them. Just run the first night for non-points so they can get everything ironed out and don't have to worry about showing up a day early for practice.
Hey.
Wednesday, however, will count for Bid Gator championship points. So the Bid Gator will be determined from all 4 nights. But other than that, 4 completely separate programs.
They were running a Chevrolet motor, and they're going to transplant the Ford motor in there this weekend. What do you think about his chances of winning with the World of Outlaws?
Yeah, they've had the Rudine cars had the Ford in the past couple of years, and it's been pretty solid for them. Won them an All-Star championship, I think, and Zeb had some good runs on half miles in it last year. Justin's always good on half miles. Knoxville, Eldora, Volusia, just racetracks he's really, really good at. Big, high-speed tracks. Justin was on the podium last year at Volusia in the boot car, so I think I think this might be his best opportunity yet to get that first Outlaw win. He's been close before, a couple of podium finishes, and I think if there's a place he's going to do it, it's probably going to be a half mile. So I wouldn't be shocked at all to see him go back to victory lane. I think at the very least he'll have a couple of dash appearances and some top 5s. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's crazy how life works. Everybody in the offseason thought that Peck was going to end up in that 5 car. That didn't work out, and then he ends up with Rudine Racing almost by accident. These guys get together, and boy, it worked right out of the gate, didn't it?
Yeah, it sure did. It's funny how life works sometimes. Justin, if you'd asked him at the end of October, I guess, middle of October, he would have
drove the 13
he'd be in the
car.
CJB 5 car, and then that kind of fell through as business happens in the racing world. It is a business at the end of the day. So But I'd say Justin's pretty happy with where he ended up.
All right, this is a big week for the World of Outlaws. NOS Energy Drink World of Outlaws opens up the 2025 season at Volusia Speedway Park. 4 big nights of racing. And, boy, I'm looking at the roster, Connor. This Rookie of the Year battle is going to be very interesting to watch. Of course, last year it was Buddy Kofoid, probably the best rookie run of anybody in the history of the Outlaws. But we've got a lot of great drivers running for the rookie honors this year, don't we?
Yeah, we sure do. We go from the best rookie season ever that Kofoid had, 4th in points and 8 wins, I think, to the largest rookie class ever. The only other year, I guess, where the Outlaws had more rookies was 1978 when everybody was a rookie. I don't really count that as a year of rookies for anybody. But, it's the largest rookie class ever, and it's competitive guys, too. You've got a good mixture of guys that are going out on a national tour for the first time, like Cole Macedo, like a Garrett Williamson, like a Skylar G. You've got guys that have been around. Chris Windham ran a whole national tour last year with High Limit. Schoenberg hasn't actually ran a full national tour, but he's ran enough races to basically be a national driver whenever he would run the All-Stars full-time and then mix that in with Outlaws and other stuff. So he's been up and down the road a couple times. He knows what it takes. Going to the West Coast will be interesting for Schoenberg. I don't think he's been out west very often, but he doesn't have to worry about that until September. So I'm excited to see all 7 of them. I think it's a really, really good group of guys. I think it says a lot about sprint car racing today in the position it's in. I kind of remember a lot of people last year, worrying, with the split and there being 2 national series, car counts being fractured and blah, 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 blah. And, you look at it this year, we're going to have about 30 guys running a national tour. And if there was one national tour, there would not be 30 guys running full-time with it. So I think it speaks to the health of the sport, not only that, but how good the World of Outlaws have, treated their drivers and treated platinum drivers and the benefits that they have available for them. Not only, great advertising through Dirt Vision and other resources, but, the purses, the Victory Circle, tow money programs and all that stuff. So, no, we have a really good group of rookies, and it's going to be a fun year.
We'll hear more from Connor Wade in Hour 2 exclusively on Racing Boys. Talk more about what's going to happen in the World of Outlaws this year. Of course, we've seen some great racing at Volusia Speedway Park this weekend. And, Scott, we had some 360 racing going on at Hendry County Speedway
USCS.
Yeah. Some ASCS regulars showed up there last night. Tyler Clem is not a ASCS regular. He's a USCS regular. Mm-hmm. Tyler Clem ends up winning the feature event last night. And the ASCS regulars that finished were Sam Haferteep Jr. in 6th. We see Blake Hahn end up in 10th place last night. And Matt Covington had a 13th place finish last night at Hendry County Speedway. They'll do it again tonight. 360 cars.
Kobe Thornhill ended up running 2nd. Mark Smith ended up running 3rd. Dale Howard ended up running 4th. And Mark Rule.
There you go. So we didn't see any video of that last night, so we'll follow that and talk more about it on Monday. What'd you think about Carl Edwards going into the Hall of Fame last night? He gave quite a speech last night, didn't he?
He did. He did mention about driving my truck at I-70 Speedway.
No, that didn't come up, did it?
No, it didn't come up.
I'm not surprised because, the drivers, they think more about the races they lost than the ones they won. Now, he won in your truck at I-70 Speedway. So
his first win at I-70 Speedway.
The race he's thinking about was that last race he ever ran in the Cup Series at Homestead when he had the lead cruising to the checkered flag when a late yellow came out and he ends up into the wall. Remember that one?
Right.
And then he retires 2 months later. He also remembers the race that he lost to Tony Stewart for the championship in 2011.
His entire family, other than his dad, was there.
Yeah. Carl Sr. was he was watching. He kind of made up with his dad. That's great to hear.
Right.
His mom introduced him, which was cool. And, of course, Kenny, his brother and his wife and family up there. I thought Carl gave a great speech last night.
All right, thanks everybody for tuning in to Track Talk here on Sports Radio 810. Don't forget, you can watch hour number 2 on Facebook, YouTube, and RacingBoys.com.
I just got to congratulate Ricky Rudd and Ralph Moody for going in the Hall of Fame last night, too.
Well deserved.
Yes, sir. I love Ricky Rudd, the Iron Man.
He was such a great race car driver.
And Ralph Moody, he should have been in a long time ago, probably.
He should have been in a long time ago. All right, thanks everybody for tuning in to Track Talk here on Sports Radio 810. Don't forget, hour number 2 on Facebook, YouTube, and RacingBoys.com. We can't thank you enough for tuning in for us. We appreciate it. Jay running the show, Todd Surprise running the show, Kirk Elliott and I will wrap it up here. Hour number 2 coming up next.
Rod End Supply is involved with a variety of motorsports as well as industrial applications with many different types of products. Since 1989, Rod End Supply has provided superior products priced competitively. Whether you're racing at the circle track or drag strip, rock climbing, or going off-road, Rod End Supply has an assortment of rod ends, radius rods, and specialty products to keep your equipment moving. Rod End Supply's experienced staff is ready and willing to help you with your needs. Their promise is to continue to provide a superior product with superior service so you can stay in front of the field no matter what it is. To learn more, go to rodendsupply.com.
2025 is the year to get your freedom back. Would you?
All right, let's talk football next week. I'll see you guys then.
That's right. Rock and roll, man. Appreciate it, brother. Have fun tomorrow.
It's the right loan for you. Are you tired of looking at your statement every month just to see that almost all of your payment goes toward interest?
Rod End Supply is involved with a variety of motorsports as well as industrial applications with many different types of products. Since 1989, Rod End Supply has provided superior products priced competitively. Whether you're racing at the circle track or drag strip, rock climbing, or going off-road, Rod End Supply has an assortment of rod ends, radius rods, and specialty products to keep your equipment moving. Rod End Supply's experienced staff is ready and willing to help you with your needs. Their promise is to continue to provide a superior product with superior service so you can stay in front of the field no matter what it is. To learn more, go to rodendsupply.com.
Shirt Specialty Sportswear in-house. We do all of the screen printing, all the embroidery. We do some vinyl. The other add specialty items like your pens, magnets, notepads, calendars. You can actually buy that, build your business to make it larger. We have the largest screen printing process and the largest embroidery anywhere around in the area. We can do stuff all the way from your school clubs to sports teams, a professional look in the office. If you can imagine it, we can do it for you.
From the circle track to the drag strip to off-road racing, Rod End Supply has been keeping their customers at the front of the field since 1989. Whether you need rod ends, tubular rods, or specialty products, Bob Douglas and his Rod End Supply staff are always ready to help you with your needs. You can visit them on the web at rodendsupply.com or call them at 800-284-2902. That's 800-284-2902. Rod End Supply, keeping you at the front of the field.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sabres 33 RLP. Let's go take a tour. Coming into this animal, we're going to take a trip back here to the feature of this trailer, the deck. Check it out. It's awesome. It's 4 by 10 feet. You could dance on the thing. Boom! Check it out. It's pretty nice. And then coming to the back of this thing, you got a 75-inch TV. It's huge. 60-inch fireplace. Nice and big, keep you warm. Then you got an ottoman that converts into a table, if you will, maybe some TV trays. Then this hide-a-bed that I'm pointing at, it comes out and folds into like a king-size bed with storage in the corner for all your linens. Great little addition to the trailer. Your dinette, of course. Then you're gonna come around to the kitchen with the tic-toc sink. It's got the spritzer and the waterfall and all that stuff. Residential style refrigerator. It's got the microwave and the oven that's residential as well. Big old pantry over here with motion detected lights, coffee bar, and then coming up to the bedroom, you'll have the bathroom first, nice and spacious with a seat in it for them ladies. And then we got the king size bedroom with washer dryer hookup. I'm telling you, this is a home run for a couples coach. Come and see me, Kyle Walker.
Steve died, the outpouring of love was amazing. These dollars had come together to support us, and we realized, no, we didn't want to use them for us. We wanted to use them to help others.
The foundation has done so much for so many people. It helps any family that has somebody, whether it be a crew member or one of the drivers, that get hurt. We can help them to get through the situation.
I was injured in a non-wing sprint car accident that broke my neck and left me with a spinal cord injury. I was in the hospital 8 months, and that got really, really expensive. So having that extra help to help push me and my family forward was a big deal.
Yes, Steve's death is the reason the foundation exists, but it's Steve's life, and it's the lives of racers everywhere, is the reason we're able to do the work we do.
So we have a lot of folks come in interested in traveling for work. This is going to be a great option. Your Coachman Northern Spirit 2565 front kitchen. You have a nice wraparound full front kitchen here. Huge windows up top. Big 12-volt refrigerator. Lots of windows on the sides here. Great natural light coming in. You have your big TV over here on the swing arm bracket so you can kind of see it from any point in the room. Also have your bar stools here. Sit and eat your breakfast. In the bedroom, you're going to have a king-size bed in the slide-out. Lots of storage underneath that. Washer, dryer, hookup. Tons of storage with the drawers. Then you got your full bath across the back. When it comes down to a camper that you can get for 6,500 pounds and be under 30 feet long, this is an absolute home run.
Race fans, the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum is open 7 days a week, year-round, for you to come in and check out all of the wonderful race cars on display in the museum. And our online store at sprintcarstuff.com is open 24 hours a day for you to check out everything that we have in stock for sprint car fans. Whether it's for a birthday, anniversary, or Christmas, sprintcarstuff.com has it all. That's at the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum in Knoxville.
Go harder, faster, stronger with Rod End Supply. Whether you are running industrial, farming equipment, or a race car, Rod End Supply has the assortment of rod ends, radius rods, and specialty products that will help you lead the field in performance. Our superior design means our rod ends last longer and perform better, giving you the edge on the track and saving you money. Contact Rod End Supply or order online today at rodendsupply.com. We don't just sell them, we race them. rodendsupply.com. Serving the racing community for over 30 years.
Hey everybody, this is Larry the Cable Guy, and you are listening to RacingBoys.com, and if you're not, I swear to you, get in your truck or do something, but get the hell out of this country, because you don't belong in it if you don't listen to these fellas.
It's time for America's most unique motorsports show, Track Talk, brought to you by Rod End Supply and the Power Ride Midwest Lightning Sprints. Here are the racing boys, Scott Traylor and Kirk Elliott.
Welcome back to Track Talk, hour number 2. You can watch it on Facebook, YouTube, and RacingBoys.com as well.
I want to talk more about Carl Edwards. You know him pretty well. You know him about as well as anybody, especially when he first got started. Your favorite Carl Edwards story that maybe nobody's heard, or maybe they have?
Well, my favorite story about Carl Edwards is I started watching him drive 4-cylinder cars down at Moberly Speedway, and he was really excellent in driving one of those 4-cylinder cars down there at Moberly Speedway. Do you remember that, Kirk?
I don't remember that incident. The thing I remember at Moberly is when they first put pavement on the racetrack, I think it was.
Right.
And he and Boyer were both over there racing.
Boyer was driving my car, and Carl Edwards beat him.
And they had a battle, didn't they?
They did.
And it was they touched each other too, did they not?
They did.
They were. That was.
They battled it out.
I was there for that. I remember that. Another thing I remember about Moberly Speedway Park was after Carl had hit the big time. He's already a big star in NASCAR.
They put dirt back on that racetrack.
And they put dirt back on the racetrack, and he shows up one night to watch his brother Kenny race. And he flies in. He's a pilot now. He's got his own airplane.
Right.
And he flies into the Moberly Airport, and he shows up, and he's helping his brother Kenny race. But he's got to leave early because he's got to get back to Martinsville to run the race the next day at Martinsville. So Carl gets to the local Moberly Airport, and he flies his own airplane. He's his own pilot. And before he heads south towards Moberly, Missouri, he does a low flyover, Moberly Speedway Park. Carl does this low flyover over the racetrack before he heads off into the distance.
Do you remember Clint Boyer talking about flying with Carl Edwards, and he did a barrel roll? Do you remember that?
It scared Clint Boyer, and Clint Boyer was never scared.
Right.
Right?
He was never scared. Right.
And Carl does he rolls the plane, or does he turn it completely, or does he bank it far? If he didn't go upside down with the airplane, right?
He did.
He did.
He did.
And they survived to tell about it.
Right. Carl, Clint Boyer was scared to death.
You saw Carl Edwards show up at the racetrack back before anybody knew who he was in a fire suit handing out business cards. You know, we've heard the story about Carl handing out the business cards, and you had one of those business cards.
I did.
Because I've seen it.
Yeah.
You still got it, right?
I still have it.
But Carl came to the racetrack in his fire suit.
Carl would, at I-70 Speedway.
Didn't have a ride, but he was in his fire suit.
Carl Edwards would hand out his race cards and try to get a ride at the racetrack during that day.
And what did it say on the card? They had a little engraving on the card. I forgot exactly what it said.
You're looking at the best driver.
Yeah.
Right.
But Carl is one of the more unique individuals that we have ever come in contact with. He is as real can be. Carl is what you see is what you get.
Hey, he dominated that race in my truck, didn't he?
He did. Yeah,
he lapped up all the way to third place.
Now let's tell that story. How that came about. Carl Edwards was racing in the truck series for Mittler at Texas Motor Speedway the night before the World Cup at I-70 Speedway.
And he drove all night to get back to I-70 Speedway.
How did that deal come together? He always wanted to race at I-70 Speedway. That was the motivation. He'd never raced at I-70 Speedway and wanted to race there. How did that come together? How did that deal come together?
I just called up Carl and asked him if he wanted to drive my truck. And he said, absolutely. And I don't know if you know this, but he took out Nate Bonnell on the first lap.
I remember that.
And there was a big giant
turn
pileup.
Two, right? Or it was right out of turn two.
Right out of turn two. And there was a big giant pileup. And
he caused it, right?
He caused it. Right?
Then
Carl was never afraid to put a bumper to somebody.
But he got the least end of the deal because he was able to restart the race, came from the back, charged his way to the front, and I've sitting in the stands watching this, and I have never to this day seen anybody drive I-70 as hard as Carl Edwards did in that race. And he won it. And you got the belt buckle back here to prove it.
Right.
Laying on the table.
Yep.
Carl had his own belt buckle, right?
He did. I got a duplicate made.
You had a duplicate made.
Right.
But he drove your truck to the World Cup when his first and only ever experience at I-70 Speedway, and he was motivated to drive all night back from Texas Motor Speedway after racing in the trucks the night before, just because he had never raced at I-70. And
there's the belt right there, Kirk.
Yeah, that's it. But Kenny Edwards, we got to know him a little bit too. That's his only sibling. He's got one brother, Kenny, and he raced a little bit.
He was pretty good too.
Now talk about Carl's dad. You met him too.
Yep. Carl's dad was He won his first race at I-70 Speedway.
Carl Sr.
Carl Sr. Yep. He won a couple races out at I-70 Speedway back in the day.
And we knew that Carl and Carl Sr. were at odds a little bit. They didn't
get along too well.
It was great to hear Carl in his speech last night talking about how much he's made up with his dad. Now they're really close. He was not at the ceremony last night. Carl Sr. was not there. His mom was. And you met his mom. She is a great lady.
Right.
She introduced Carl last night. That was a key moment of the whole thing last night, was watching his mom introduce Carl last night.
How many races do you think Carl would have won if he stayed in NASCAR?
Well, he was just right. I mean, he was at the height of his career when he decided to retire. I think it shocked everybody because we knew how passionate Carl was for this, that we didn't think he'd be the kind of guy to ever retire. And when he chose to retire right after the 2016 season.
There's his brother right there.
Yeah. Kenny Edwards and his wife. So it was a great moment last night watching Carl go into the Hall of Fame. He set the world on fire. Remember when he won the truck race at Kansas Speedway in 2004?
Mittler's truck.
And he did the backflip that nobody, we were just kind of getting to know Carl at that. The country was just getting to know Carl at that time, and he won that race at Kansas Speedway. To this day,
in the 99 truck,
until Kyle Larson won that 1,000th of a second win last year, have I ever heard the crowd get louder than when Carl Edwards won that truck race.
Do you feel like that his wife chose him to get out of racing?
I think she was a big influence.
That was what I was going to say. I'm 100%. After you listen to that speech, and then you can tell she had a lot to do with it.
She had a lot of play in it.
She's a doctor. She saw kind of what was going on with some of these guys, and
yeah, that was a big deal. The head concussions
that
people were having, and then I know she was really worried about it. And he was concerned that she was worried about it.
That's right.
And I think that had a lot to do with it.
I've had 7 concussions from motorsports.
Yeah. How about Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s had like 25 concussions.
Yeah, that's scary because, Dale, he talks about his, and he was doing concussion protocol that was completely different than what they do concussion protocol now. You know what I'm saying? I watched him do an interview, and he was saying, when I first started doing, they wanted me to be lay down in a dark room with nothing on, and now it's a completely different. They get your brain working in a different way and stuff, and that just tells you the period of time, how long Dale Earnhardt Jr. has been getting concussions. Like you said, he had 25. Well, hell, he'd been having them since probably the first time he started racing, as you did, Scott, and then all the way up until that big one. When he came to Piper High School, when me and Kirk came out there to interview him, we were the only media people there, and because I got that was my school, so I was able to get us in there, and he was on a downtime at that point. Remember that, Kirk? Because it was during a concussion that he hit out here at Kansas Speedway during I think it was a tire test. And
that was the hardest hit I think he took.
Yeah.
Was out here at Kansas Speedway during that Goodyear tire test.
And when he came to Kansas, he said that he told me personally. He said, "Look, I'm not doing a lot of these things right now, but I did promise these schools. So I have these schools on my his calendar that he was still going to, even though he was dealing with real life situations with his concussion. And he talked about it and." He didn't. I don't know. I can't even remember when he raced again. It was quite a few more weeks before he even got back in a car again. And then it wasn't but a year later, I think he stepped out. That was after
it was the next year he came back.
Yep.
I'm not sure he even came back.
I think you're right. That was the end of the year, and then the next year that was it. So I agree. I think Carl Edwards, his wife, had a heck of a lot to do.
Now Carl
with.
didn't have any concussions of his own, but he saw Dale Jr.
Absolutely.
and some of these other guys.
And his wife's a doctor, and she kind of knows, and she wasn't going to be dealing with. that kind of stuff.
I want to give a shout out to Kelly, who's listening in from Central Point, Oregon.
Welcome.
Yep, we got a couple on YouTube. We appreciate everybody checking in on all 3 of our streaming platforms. We've got some pretty good numbers today. We appreciate it. And if you guys want to tune in on Monday, Mostly Motorsports every Monday at noon Central Time. We go about an hour to hour and a half, depending on what we got going on.
But anyway, just finish up with Carl Edwards and going into the Hall of Fame last night. It is really cool to see the very beginning, to see Carl before anybody knew who he was, and the growth of his career. And he goes into the NASCAR Hall of Fame last night. That is a special moment for all of us to watch that.
Right.
To see from beginning to end a career that's, I don't think we're ever going to see anybody like Carl Edwards in the NASCAR Cup Series.
I would agree with you on that one, Kirk.
Yeah, so anyway, congratulations to Carl Edwards, Ricky Rudd, Ralph Moody, all going in for the Hall of Fame last night. Also, they awarded Mike Harris, the AP sports writer, got the Squire Hall Award going in last night. And they also recognized the guy that was the inventor of the safer barrier, Dr. James Sicking. He goes in as an honored Hall of Fame, not the full-fledged Hall of Fame going in, but that was pretty cool to see that. Where would we be today without the safer barriers?
Right.
Probably in more fatalities, I would guess.
No doubt about it.
So anyway, it was a cool event last night. I had to kind of search around to watch it. It was on the Tubi NASCAR channel.
YouTube.
Yeah. I had to go online to stream it to watch that event last night. So, and you know, the timing was great. At the end of the show last night, I flipped over to Dirt Vision, and they were just doing the introductions for the A-Main. So how was that for great timing?
Right.
Saw the live Hall of Fame show last night, NASCAR. When that's over, we're ready to watch the World of Outlaws feature event live.
Kirk, we got Ray on the phone.
Ray Cunningham will be going into the Carb Hall of Fame on March the 8th. And he is one of the great historians, great publicist for non-wing racing, open wheel guru. I call him a lot of things, but he's joining us right now. Congratulations, my friend. Can't wait to help induct you into the Hall of Fame on March the 8th. What was your first thought about finding out you're a Hall of Famer?
Well, you know, ironically, you were sitting right next to me, Kirk, when it happened. So,
yeah, but I don't think you were in the moment of helping count the ballots. You had to be, after it was all over, it had to sink in after that because you were so busy at the time when it occurred. I don't think you had it sink in quite yet.
No, I was in a state of shock at that moment. I think I told you beforehand, it's like I'd never been involved in anything where at the time I was, you know, all being involved in something where I was also being voted on or something like that. The other Hall of Fame I went to, they called to tell me, you know, when I went into the High Banks Hall of Fame. So as you were next to me doing your ballot, I was looking at my ballot and focusing in on that, making sure that each envelope they opened that I had the exact count and was doing it correctly. Yeah, I was kind of speechless. I was hoping to get a few votes because I thought since I'm there in person, I don't want to get any votes. I want to at least get a couple of votes. But, yeah, when it was all said and done and there was time to reflect, you know, and I'm getting emotional now thinking about that, then it did make me emotional. And, you know, the first thing I thought of and I'm still thinking of now is how I wish my buddy David Tyson would have been there. Because that was a journey that David and I took together, the Carb Hall of Fame, you know, being officers in it. Now David, I'm sure he would still be in it just like me. And we both were in it since the last decade. And went through all the craziness of the pandemic, and there was a year where we didn't even have a Hall of Fame induction ceremony. And as we all know, when you deal with anything in life or racing and Hall of Fames, sometimes people are here for one Hall of Fame and then they're unfortunately not there for the next one. So you remember that, and you always hope that we can get as many people in as possible that can enjoy that experience. So David will be with me in spirit, definitely, coming up for that Hall of Fame induction, because I always think of David first when I think of the Carb Hall of Fame.
Dave was a great guy, wasn't he?
He was an exceptional guy, and you guys were actually, I think, the last people to talk to him in a public setting where other people could hear his viewpoints. I think that was just a few days before, wasn't it? So,
yeah, just
he came
like
on
a
your
week
show,
or two.
mostly motorsports, and when I think about it, and of course I'd love to have my parents there too, but David was such a big part of that Hall of Fame with me, and a lifelong friend, and I know you guys were friends with David too, because David didn't know a stranger, as we discussed before, and
right,
really everybody was David's friend, and he did a lot for the Hall of Fame, and some of these guys that are going in the Hall of Fame this year, David was directly involved in getting them nominated and stuff like that. So that's the first thing I thought of, Kirk, when I had an opportunity, was to think how lucky I was, first of all, and appreciative, and then thinking about my friend David and wishing he was there with me.
Hey. And I never met a Jayhawk fan and a Tiger fan that close. But he was a big Missouri Tiger. You're a Jayhawk.
Oh, my God, he's huge. He's the biggest Missouri fan I know. At the funeral, we kind of had a back and forth. We got some of his Mizzou fans up there talking. So I said, well, I got to get up and defend the Jayhawks now because, we've heard enough bashing of KU now. But, yeah, David and I, that never separated David and I at all. We were huge fans of our schools, but, that's the thing. David and I we're best friends regardless of, the other things. We grew up together, and I actually enjoyed that David was a big Mizzou fan. I know you're a big Iowa State fan, Kirk.
Yep.
So, we got some, I call it Big 8. We go back to Big 8, so I think about that first. I wish Missouri was still a part of our conference, to be real honest. I wish they were not in a different conference. I'll just say that. I'm not going to get into all the other politics of college sports because there's a lot. But
you're feeling a lot better about Monday night in Lawrence than I am right now. So
yeah, yes, that's true. That wasn't Iowa State's. It wasn't their greatest moment of the year. Obviously, they did whoop up on the Jayhawks earlier, though. So I did tell my Iowa State friends, I said, we just evened it up. We certainly didn't take anything from Iowa State because they had already worked us over pretty good. So, that was already in your back pocket. I think it was you on that evening that really needed to step up.
Hey, Ray, let me ask you, what was the first race you ever went to?
Okay, so, people ask me that, and I can only guesstimate at that with my parents being gone because I was almost born at the racetrack, so that's going to be a really good question. I remember some of my earliest memories. Those are of places like the old Lakeside. I loved going there. And Olympic Stadium, if nobody got to go to Olympic Stadium as a child, then they missed out. That was such a cool little venue. And I'm a product. I grew up in a super modified era. The 60s and 70s, and I loved the super modifieds. And I loved the split shows on the bigger tracks like Lakeside and Topeka where they would have what we called the late models of that day, where you had a lot of those 57 and 56 and 55 Chevys out there and stuff like that.
Right.
I love that car. You kind of see them now with the those vintage groups, and that reminds me of my childhood as well, as when somebody restores or runs an old super modified, because I was a huge fan of the super modifieds, and of course they went. I mean, we still have midgets and sprints. I grew up with those too, but those are still around. I do miss super modified racing a lot, and I really enjoyed as a child places like Lakeside, Riverside, Olympic Stadium, Knoxville, where Kirk, saw a lot of races at Knoxville in my childhood, and those are great memories for me.
Kirk never watched a race at Riverside.
I never did.
You never saw one?
No, because when I moved down here in 1986, I was working every Saturday night at the Adams County Speedway in Corning, Iowa. Riverside was a Saturday night racetrack. So since I was working at another racetrack, I never saw a race at Riverside. I saw the track before they tore it down. I went in there.
Yeah.
Purposely, I wanted to get there because I knew they were going to tear it down. I wanted to get in, take a look at it.
Well,
and that's my only experience at Riverside.
Well, and a lot of these, once again, when you're talking about the Carb Hall of Fame, you're talking about places. And I remember when I was a child, I was 9 years old when they built I-70. And I remember how excited we were to go to. Super Modifieds raced there that first year on Sunday afternoons because Olympic ran Sunday nights. Topeka ran Friday, Knoxville Saturday.
Shawnee.
In fact, that year, Tiger Bob Williams won 3 championships that year, and it still boggles the mind because there were 3 totally different tracks. Topeka on Friday, Knoxville on Saturday, Olympic on Sunday, and then he would also run at I-70. John Backlund won that title, by the way. And that's how prevalent super modifieds were in that day. And those weren't the only tracks in the area. Like you said, Riverside. You also had Saline County, which is Marshall. You had Jeff City. And then we talked about Knoxville. Back in those times, Kirk, Beatrice also ran super modifieds every week. And so they were so prevalent in this area and just incredible race drivers. And, the early Knoxville Nationals, if you look back at it, it's all the guys from the Heartland that dominated that. It was so strong, from the Welds to Little Joe and Ray Lee and Jay Woodside, and so many great racers and National Sprint Car Hall of Fame members now, too, as well as many of them in our Carb Hall of Fame. But
yeah, I mean, the super
realize if they weren't from that era, how strong the racing was and how many good venues there were.
Yeah, I mean, the super modifieds were the forerunner of what we now know as the sprint cars. I mean, when the Knoxville Nationals started, it was the super modified Nationals. That's what it was.
Yes.
What do you remember about Jerry Weld, Butch, as most people called him?
Okay, so I don't really remember. I talked to this about Linda because tonight, that's kind of a segue to tonight's MWRA banquet, because Junior Parkinson, at 76 years old, finished 3rd place in points in the MWRA, driving the Weld Parkinson 93. The 93 is in honor of Jerry Weld, Jerry Butch Weld, a great racer, but also just and a great mechanical mind, but also a really good guy. As a child, what I remember most about him was when he was promoting the Topeka Fairgrounds, and he was always he was a kind of an uplifting person in my viewpoint, always, and he talked to kids as well as adults, and I really loved his personality. By then, he had kind of curtailed his racing for the most part. I remember Greg and Kenny, and of course Ricky, a lot better on the, racing, but I do know that Jerry was a hell of a racer as well. Becoming a historian, I found a lot out about Jerry. He raced that flying suitcase. One of the original, what we call super modifieds, is we morphed into, because, we started with a jalopy, and that jalopy then really became a modified, then a super modified, and then a sprint car, as you guys talked about, over time. And so Jerry Weld was definitely a big part of that process and a champion. You know, he had many a battle with Junior Howard, the Power. You know, those two were great rivals. And you know that funny story, you guys probably know it, where Jerry Weld told Junior that if your wife keeps hitting me after the races, each time she hits me, I'm going to hit you. Because he wasn't going to hit Junior Howard's wife. He was going to hit Junior. So, and we all know that Junior is Ray Boyle's uncle, so a great family racing tradition started there too, with first the Howers, and then that goes into the Boyles family, and then on the opposite side of that family is the Keys, because this year, you remember at the Chili Bowl, gosh, I really wanted Clinton Boyles, to win his preliminary night. He looked so good, and Cameron looked really good that night too. Even their brother-in-law, Hunter Schoenberg, he looked good that night too. I mean, it was a Boyles family reunion almost at the Chili Bowl. But no, when you think of Rick or Jerry Weld, I also think of people like Junior Howard and Bud Honeycutt. God bless him. He was a great Carb Hall of Fame supporter. And but yeah, Jerry Weld, first a great racer and then a very good promoter as well.
I don't know if you know this or not, but a good friend of mine, a kind of a mentor of mine, Vernon Pittman Van Lines, sponsored Jerry Weld. Do you remember that? When he had the little truck on the top of his car? Do you remember that?
Oh, okay. That's awesome.
Well, you bring up Bud Honeycutt. He was a great historian and storyteller too. We miss him for certain. And you took a lot of inspiration from Bud Honeycutt to try to keep these stories moving along. Just talk about that a little bit. Bud was a great guy.
Yeah, Bud, he did that book. I believe it's called Up on the Wheel.
Yep.
Lots of great stories in that book. And so, I do the Hall of Fame Ambassador Series. And so it came time to do a story on Bud, so I called him and I asked him about writing that book and about stories about Jerry Weld. I know he was really close to him and other racers like Ken Hollywood Williams, the brother of Tiger Bob, and different racing personalities, because so many great racing personalities were during Bud's lifetime. And so my funniest story about him, though, was when he wrote that book and he started to distribute it, he didn't realize how popular it was going to be. And there was a guy that either phoned, I think he phoned him. Yeah, he phoned Bud and said, "Hey, I've heard about this book. I want it." And Bud goes, "Okay, I'll send it to you. Where do you live?" He says, "I live in 2 Dot, Montana." He goes, 2 Dot, Montana? Yeah. And he goes, he asked the guy, "Well, is there a 1 Dot, Montana as well?" And, but anyway, old Bud Honeycutt, man, he's funny, smart, and a really good racer too, by the way. But man, he knew a lot, like you guys were talking about racing. So I picked his brain about guys like Jerry Weld, Maston Gregory. There's a lot of racing personalities from that time period, and he either knew these people personally or he was like, the old Indian tribes. You always had the guy in the tribe that kept the history of the tribe, right? That was the guy that kept the stories going. They didn't have books then, they didn't print them up, but they did have people that carried on the stories. He's that kind of guy, and I hope in some way I'm that kind of guy, with my series Racing from the Past. And you guys were nice enough during the pandemic when we didn't have a lot of racing to publish some of my stories, on the guys like Vito Kalia and Boo Boo Badami, who got his nickname because they were tired of him winning an Olympic, so they were always booing him.
Right.
And that became a part of his name. They started calling him Boo Boo because,
he won so much.
Go ahead.
That's what happens. It's like when the people are booing the Kansas City Chiefs, enough already.
Exactly. Well, and that's what I tell people now. I go, be proud to be a Kansas City Chiefs fan, and really don't give a crap what anybody thinks, because guess what? The reason why they feel that way is, remember, because I always say, remember how you felt when the Patriots kept winning? Because I became a real Patriots hater during all those great years, and because they were so good and they were so dominant. And, the Chiefs have basically taken over where the Patriots left off, but I think they're going to go further with it because Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and those guys, I don't see them quitting anytime soon. I'm not sure about Kelsey. There's rumors about him, but I got to believe that the Chiefs aren't done even this year. I mean, but if they do 3 in a row, as a historian kind of guy and a guy that holds records very dearly to him, that's just never been done. That'll be something that lives on for as long as any of us live on. That's for sure.
And a lot of these race car drivers that you're talking about, the same thing. They did a lot of things that hadn't been done before.
Maston Gregory was one of them.
And that's why they were Hall of Famers. That's why they were so great. And, they won all the time and took the wins away from their favorite drivers. And Boo Boo Badami was one of those drivers. Hey, we had the news here a couple of weeks ago. The MWRA is now merged with the War Power I series, a combined 21 race schedule next year.
I think that's a good thing.
Shelby has backed away from the series. Now we see Brad Wyatt taking things over. You say the banquet is tonight for the 2024 season to honor Wyatt Burks as a champion. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Wyatt Burks, gosh, he has just been the staple of this series. This is his 4th championship, and this is his 3rd championship in a row. So, of course, we're going to be honoring Wyatt Burks. Dakota Earls, who's basically grown up. He was 15 years old when the club started. He's now 20. He finished 2nd place, but now get this. He's 20 years old. I don't think he's turned 21 yet. But 3rd place is Junior Parkinson. He's 76 years old.
It's still racing.
Born in 1948. He's 3rd place in points for 2024.
That's incredible that Junior's out there doing this after all these years. He was having fun at it.
Exactly. And Junior, when he won a heat race at Valley earlier in the season, that ended up after the redraw putting him on the pole, and I was telling everybody where they were starting, and I turned to Junior, and I said, "You're on the pole, Junior." He goes, "I'm on the pole?" Because he'd never been on the pole for an MWRA race. And then a couple races after that, Junior was so close to making the podium. That would have been his first podium. He ended up 4th place, but Junior just really, he's defying. Remember, and you probably remember this, both you guys, the first time in his comeback when he was 73 years old in 2021, there was that race at Salina. And Kirk, remember I had to work, and I couldn't announce that night, so I came over to your guys' headquarters there, and we watched, and all of a sudden they pushed out the cars for the heat race, and they said, "That's Buddy Parker." And I looked at you, and I said, that's not Buddy Parker. That's got to be Junior Parkinson. Even though he hadn't said a word to me about that situation, that's where it started. And, at first you're going to have some rust when you haven't raced since the 1980s. But after a couple of years, this last year, Junior really picked up the baton. He started becoming very racy and worked his way up into the top 3, and he deserved it.
He's doing so well now, he decided to use his real name, Junior Parkinson. So
yes, exactly, and that's the other thing about that. Yeah. At one point, he told me at the end of last year, he calls me and he goes, "Ray," he goes, I want to be Junior Parkinson in all the write-ups from now on, all the stories." I said, "We're going to do that then, bud. You feel like you're at the place where you want to do that?" Because at first, the Parkinsons have an incredible racing legacy, for one.
Right.
When he came back initially, he didn't know what that would mean. And he did not want to, I know in his heart, he did not want to tarnish in any way the memory of his father a Hall of Famer, Ralph Pops Parkinson. In fact, the Rookie of the Year tonight will go to the Ralph Pops Parkinson. It's in honor of him for Kyle Gorham. But yeah, that was a thing for, and it's also because Chris Parkinson was racing with us full time until this, last season. And Chris, we know what Chris has done in non-wing sprint car racing since the advent of WAR. He has been one of the most consistent drivers, period. He's a former champion. And I was very tickled to see Chris win an MWRA race, last year. He had finished second place in points back-to-back years, also third place and fourth place in points, but he just hadn't gotten a victory, and then he got one this last season. He's been such a great supporter. But, yeah, Chris and his dad and, of course, Pops, you remember him from back in the day, Kirk, when you were at Knoxville. And
Ralph Sr., absolutely.
Races.
I always worry about Junior getting hurt in that sprint car. I worry about that a lot.
And, and I totally understand that. But I'll tell you what, he does all his own work down there. If you go down in the pits, that guy's wrestling those tires around. He's underneath the hood. He's doing everything. He just doesn't jump in the car and drive that thing. Junior Parkinson is a lot like, I'll bring up another guy, Dale McCarty. Those guys, they defy age. This year, Dale McCarty, we sat together at the Chili Bowl. This year, he's going to run both a non-wing and a wing sprint car as an owner, and he's going to be 94 years old.
I talked to Dale down at the Chili Bowl. He was walking around the Chili Bowl at 93 years old?
He's 93, and he just had a knee replacement, Kirk. And he decided to go to the Chili Bowl because I asked him, I said, are you really going to go to the Chili Bowl? I said, I'd love to have you and be with you at the Chili Bowl. But, he had only had that operation like 8 weeks before. He was going up and down those stairs like Ralph Parkinson, or Junior, as he likes to be called. It defies what most people think about aging. But I understand, Scott, your point there. But Junior is one tough guy. He's not your average guy for any age group, and certainly not in their 70s. I don't know of anybody like Junior in their 70s, and I certainly don't know anybody like Dale McCarty in their 90s. That's for sure. Those two guys. And ironically, they raced against each other back in the day. And so anyway, but yeah.
Hey, quickly before we run here, Ray, your thoughts about where we're going with this non-wing racing, the combined schedule, where are we headed here?
Okay, so first of all, if there's any clarity issues, the MWRA is still its own group. That is owned by Brad Wyatt. POWRi, WAR, that's Kenny Brown's series. They came together this year. We've had co-sanctioned races, right, with them in the past. But we've never done what's being done this year, which is to combine two clubs to race together in all the races. And that is to help non-wing sprint cars in this area to keep both of these clubs vibrant. And, also importantly, we have to remember that Randy Powell from Wholesale Batteries is going to be the primary sponsor of MWRA again. And so right now, I think that's the best possible thing that could happen for non-wing sprint car racing in this area. Because if the MWRA would have just gone away, which could have happened, then all we'd have is the WAR series. And Kenny Brown will be the first to tell you his primary emphasis is with the 410 wing series. And so it's nice that WAR and MWRA are together, because I think, and I'm hoping, that this will keep non-wing sprint car racing strong in our area. And that was the number one goal for Brad in the first place, to buy the MWRA. He doesn't want non-wing sprint car racing going away in this area, and he's doing everything in his power to ensure, and especially with Randy Powell, because, we couldn't have done the MWRA the previous for 5 years or this year without Randy Powell. He has done so much for us.
And they've influenced the schedule and the sponsorship, wholesale batteries. That's the big part that MWRA carries forward into the future. Ray, thanks for spending time with us. Where is this banquet tonight, and can people still attend?
Yeah, they still can. It's at the Platte Purchase Building on the Platte County Fairgrounds. The doors will open at 5:30. There'll be a meet and greet 5 to 6, and then there'll be the eating, and then after that, the banquet to honor the top 12 drivers. Also, special awards for Rookie of the Year, Owner of the Year, Mechanic, McKinney South Media Award. Different Most Improved Driver, Comeback Driver, all sorts of different awards, and so yeah. Even if you guys, I don't know what you're doing tonight, but we'd love to see you. I know both of you have come to several of our banquets, and we always appreciated it because the Racing Boys, you guys have been the media source for the Heartland now for decades, and that's why I've enjoyed working with you guys. I know how important you have been to our racing scene here, but also nationally, and the work you guys did at the Chili Bowl. All the different things that you guys put an imprint on, the ASCS, and you and I talked about it. You did our video live streaming too before you guys got out of that business, and we appreciated that. And so you guys are just so important to the local racing scene. And Kirk and Scott, we also appreciate in the Carb Hall of Fame banquet. That just makes that a better situation every year, having the involvement of the Racing Boys, and I just got to thank you guys for that as well.
Well, Ray, we appreciate it. Congratulations on going. We had prior commitments tonight, otherwise we'd be up there. We'll for sure be there when you go into the Carb Hall of Fame on March the 8th. We thank you for coming on, and congratulations. Have a good time tonight up in Platte City.
All right, thank you, and you guys have a great day as well.
You too. Take care.
All right, Ray. Thank you.
There he is.
Take care.
And I was going to mention the Carb Hall of Fame banquet is March 8th, and same place they had it last year, the Mayan Community Center in Bonner Springs, Kansas. If you're interested in going to that, you can call Brian Jackson at 816-916-4448 for tickets. That's 816-916-4448. Catering by Christie's, March 8th. Carb Hall of Fame, Ray Cunningham's going in, along with Charlie Benedek, Donald Connor, Vernie Covert, Bob Douglas is going in, J.D. Green, Rick Howard, Dave Rupard, and Pioneer inductee Pat Cunningham.
All right. We got
more Justin Peck.
More Justin Peck coming up right now.
Is that what we got loaded up there, Todd?
Yep.
Justin Peck, Part 2. He swept the weekend last weekend with the ASCS National Tour at Volusia Speedway Park. This week he's racing with the World of Outlaws. He'll be a full-time high-limit driver for Rudine Racing. Here's more of Justin Peck from Monday's Mostly Motorsports show. Is this an example of things happen for a reason? I mean, you have your best laid plans. You think you've got everything sorted out for the season. It didn't work out. That falls through, and here you happen to get together with Rudine, and it fits like a glove. How do you process that?
I really couldn't be happier with where I ended up. My dad actually kind of said the same thing you just said. It's almost like everything happens for a reason, and I'm just going to go out on a limb and say this is probably where I was supposed to be the whole time, and I'm just glad it worked out. I know we're all pretty excited to get going next week, and getting pretty excited to go after a high limit championship.
Have you ever raced at Skagit?
Yeah, last year was the first time I went out there. Yep, when we went out there with the high limit series.
And all those tracks all over the country. Just the venues that the high limit series goes to. What stands out with you? Some of your favorite racetracks that you go to during the year?
Well, I'm being from Indiana. I think my favorite racetrack's always going to be Kokomo Speedway, but it's pretty cool going out to the West Coast. I'd never been out there really to race sprint cars. I mean, I'd run Trophy Cup a couple times, which is just one track at Tulare, and then I'd been to Hanford as well. But getting to see all those new tracks was really awesome. And then getting to go to like new facilities I'd never seen. I got to go to Texas Motor Speedway last year. That was the first time I'd been to that facility. Skagit Speedway was pretty awesome. And some of those East Coast tracks I really like too. I really like going out and running those Pennsylvania tracks.
Boy, there's no easy nights out. The depth of talent in the High Limit Series from top to bottom is pretty stout, isn't it? Just kind of talk about the competition level that you're racing against.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's just like another form of the World of Outlaws. It seems like it's top to bottom. The depth is pretty crazy, especially it seemed like the competition last year, like our top 6-7 guys were just as good as the Outlaws. As a matter of fact, we had the 5-time and defending Outlaw champ that ended up being our champion. And it just seemed like we almost had more depth though. Like we had, 12, 14 guys that could show up and win on any given night. And it makes it hard when you're fighting tooth and nail with McFadden and Baston and Brad Sweet, and then you realize you're only battling for 10th.
The Ford Power, we know that this has been a program in the works for a while. Donnie Schatz been running Ford engines. There's been a lot of testing. Seems like Ford has turned the corner now. Just what are your thoughts about the Ford Power in these 410 wing sprint cars?
Yeah, the one opportunity I've really gotten to run it was last year at Charlotte, for those 3-4 nights. And, it ran really well. Truthfully, as far as I expected it to feel a lot different than the Chevy stuff. I didn't really know what to expect, I guess, but I didn't think it would feel as good as it does. But it seems really smooth to throttle. It seems to make a lot of speed. Like when I'm off the throttle at low RPMs, it seems to carry a lot of speed through the corner. So I like it. I think it kind of suits the style and the way that I want to drive. And, they definitely put out some big power. So I'd watch out for the Fords.
Hey, listen, I've been told that the Ford motors turn a few more RPMs than the Chevrolet motors. Is that the case?
From my limited experience with it, I'd say it's pretty equal.
And we're told that the Ford, they were really good on the big half-mile racetracks, getting the consistency from the short tracks to the bigger tracks. That's where they seem to have improved over the last year. Your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think I definitely would agree with that. Especially, it seems like Donnie's gotten faster on the short tracks in the last year or two, running the Ford Power. So I'll be interested to see. I haven't gotten I've only gotten to run it on a half mile so far, but. I've got no doubts in the way that it'll throttle. At Charlotte, there was a night where it got real dusty and slick, and you really were working the throttle pretty hard and had to pedal it pretty good. And I had no issues doing that. So I'm kind of excited to find out.
Talk more about the relationship you have with your crew guys. That seemed you touched on it just a little bit. You know it when you see it, but it sounds like the relationship that you already forged with these guys has played a major role on this early success. Just kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think you gotta believe in each other, and you gotta like each other. Well, I guess you don't have to like each other, but you definitely have to believe in each other and know that each person's given 100% effort, and that's kind of what we do, man. All winter long, Tyler, Brandon, and A-Rod were busting their ass and trying to make our program as good as it could be, and I think it's showing now, and it's paying off, and we all get along pretty well so far. I don't think I've made any of these guys too mad yet, but it's kind of nice. We all, I live close to the shop as well, and obviously these guys live right around the shop too. So, we take every chance we get to, go shoot a round of pool or throw some darts or go to a comedy show or hang out at the shop and drink beer or whatever it is, and just try to enjoy the camaraderie.
With the competition level the way it is, qualifying has become even more important now. You got to get yourself qualified well, get into the dash, because it's so hard to come from the back. Just getting off to a good start every night. How key is that?
Yeah, that's typically what makes or breaks your night. It seems like nowadays, all of us are so equal. It's kind of like we're all going the same speed out there, and you're just trying to, split half a tenth. You're splitting hundredths of seconds or a half a tenth or whatever it is, and it makes it tough, man. Especially when you get put behind the 8 ball and you got to try and dig yourself out of a hole early. So qualifying is definitely huge, especially when you come to like these big half miles. It's just so hard to make up ground. So you definitely have to put yourself in the right opportunity right away and try to get yourself in a dash, because it seems like 9 times out of 10 the guy that's going to win is starting those first 3 or 4 rows. So that seems to be the goal every night, is just putting yourself in contention to be able to have a shot at winning.
All right, welcome back to Track Talk here on RBN, the Racing Boys Broadcasting Network.
Caught us off guard there a little bit.
Right.
What were we talking about?
We're talking about Led Zeppelin. I went and seen the Led Zeppelin movie, and we were talking about...
How about that? What was that, a great movie?
It was really cool. It's a documentary called Becoming Led Zeppelin. If you guys
saw it in IMAX.
Yeah, it's the only way to see it would be IMAX. My biggest concern was if I waited to when it came out on streaming service, I probably wouldn't watch it, because there's so much stuff to watch on streaming, So I wanted to make sure I went out there. So yeah, if you guys are a Zeppelin fan, Led Zeppelin fan,
I was a huge Led Zeppelin
What's
fan.
the name of the movie?
It's called Becoming Led Zeppelin, and it's the only authorized documentary, because this is all put together by the band themselves. So, like I said, if you was to, we'll play a little bit of the trailer here, because it's well worth it here.
Listening to rock and roll coming from America.
That's a sound I would really like to make.
John's wife used to say, "Don't you dare play with that Planty. He's a complete disaster."
I'm going to form my own band, and I know what it is that I want to do with it.
Oh, Jimmy's forming a band. You should give him a call. So I did.
and this is literally, that's kind of like what it breaks into, is the beginnings of the band.
Robert Plant wasn't one of the favorites.
No, John Bonham's wife did not like him to hang out with him. He did not want him to hang out with Planty, as they said.
He was a couch. He was a couch guy, wasn't
he? He was staying on anybody's couch that would have him, and like you said, it's a crazy story. Led Zeppelin, and like you said, I was a mere 1 year old when they were putting the first album out, 6 months old actually.
And you saw an interview with John Bonham?
So what they did, the coolest part, which they didn't advertise, there's an audio interview in there with John Bonham, and it's never been heard by anybody other than the people in the inner circle and the guy who did the interview. And because John Bonham didn't like to do a lot of interviews, and then he passed away in the 80s. He passed away, and so.
1980.
When
he passed away.
He passed away from alcohol abuse.
Yeah, he drank himself to death. So, like a lot of those guys did back in the day. But I'm telling you, this, if you got a chance to go see it,
he was 32 years old when he died.
Yeah, just a young man. Yeah. So, but seeing it in IMAX and an experience and all this, it's well worth the price of the ticket. I would definitely go and run out and. So yesterday was the premiere. Like I said, it was being limited release yesterday, national release coming the 14th. But here in Kansas City, watch it today. Go out there and check out the thing. But
can you say that individually Jimmy Page and Robert Plant were the best at what they did?
Well, at the time there was nothing. That's the thing. They were when John Paul Jones talks about it. The music that they were putting out, there wasn't really anything close to it. You know what I'm saying? Black Sabbath they were out and about, but man, there just wasn't that much. And Jimmy Page knew what he wanted to do, and have this driving force of a band, because he was very influential in the way, this was his band. This wasn't Robert Plant's band. That's what a lot of people need to understand. Yeah. Jimmy Page started this band. He hired all the musicians. He did everything. He made the album. He shopped the album. Hired the managers. Did it all. It was
pretty much four guys, right? It was four
guys,
right?
It was 4 guys. Yeah. But Jimmy Page had been in a band, the Yardbirds, and he's in a couple bands before that. But when the Yardbirds broke up, he was kind of upset that they wasn't doing what he wanted to do. And then they broke up, and he was stuck again. So he thought, you know what? I'm just going to make my own damn band and do it the way I want. And unbeknownst to the rest of the world at the time, that it was going to be one of the largest rock and roll bands in the. I mean, hell, they knocked the Beatles off the top 40, guys. So I mean,
Do you think that Led Zeppelin was the greatest rock band of all time?
I mean,
It's hard to say
it's so
that.
hard to say. It'd be just like, is Apple the best fruit of all time? I don't know. It's like it's everybody's own thing, but you cannot go through the rock and roll world without mentioning Led Zeppelin. They have
everybody makes that Led 4 album, that
Yeah.
great album. I got that in my box of albums at home. And, a big deal. Stairway to Heaven
Absolutely.
was a classic, iconic song. But there were other tracks on that album.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically that were as good as Stairway to Heaven.
just good stuff.
Stairway to Heaven is not one of my favorite songs.
Well, it's because it got overdone. Like if you wouldn't have heard
they
it,
overplayed it.
Yeah, but here's the thing that Jimmy Page talks about in the thing, and you guys know it. It was kind of foreign to me because FM radio was playing full sides of albums, and see, I didn't. By the time I came around, they wasn't doing that. They already went to the singles. But Jimmy Page made a point that those first two albums were not going to have singles on them. You understand what I'm saying? They wanted you to play the whole album, and then that was how you experienced it. And so even in Whole Lot of Love, where all that noise and everything, that was all thrown in there so that the radio station just couldn't pick up and put a song on as a single, because that thing bled into the next song, and then it bled. And so that kind of was an eye-opening part of the show to me too. And then the other part is what was going on worldwide, guys, during this whole thing. This is 1967, 68, and 69. Just an insane time in the United States, in the world, to be honest. And John Paul Jones talks about it. When he was growing up, guys, they just came from 2 world wars over there in England. The country where they were from was bombed. It was It was just a mess. Ozzy talked about it as well when he was growing up. He's like, man, he was in Birmingham. He said they didn't come and fix our crap for years. He said they played on piles of rubble and thought that was like playground equipment. And that was just bombed out buildings.
Yeah, World War II just didn't get cleaned up overnight.
No,
that took a
long time. And Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones, they talk about it in that movie about how their parents and grandparents had just fought through all this stuff, and then, man, what they're doing is complete. Like, these parents couldn't understand what even was going on. You got to understand, like, this is the invention of heavy metal or hard rock. You know what I'm saying? So these parents I'll tell you one more quick. There's a footage in there where they're playing for the first time in this place, and in front of some of these people had never seen them, and the looks on the crowd. It's almost like a horror show, like they've been in a movie watch. They can't believe there's people with their fingers in their ears. They're just like, and they're trying to talk, and it's just like they can't believe what they're witnessing. And then there's a few guys like, this is awesome. So, like I said, it's well worth the mission. I would see it on IMAX. Don't wait till it comes out on streaming. I'd just go ahead and go see it. There's not a lot out in theaters right now, so it's a good time to go see it.
Led Zeppelin.
Becoming Led Zeppelin. It's a good, like you said, it's 2 hours of your day, and it goes right up to the second album. So it isn't like you're going to be going through the whole career. It's them as kids all the way up.
I think Dieter and I are going to go see that today.
Yeah, I would definitely go see it. Like you said, if you're a fan, it's worth seeing it. If you're a music fan, it's worth seeing it. But if you're a Zeppelin fan, it's a no doubt.
Well, those of us that are as old as we are, we remember.
Well, I was the youngest one in
the days when they were hot.
I was the youngest one in the theater yesterday. I'm just going to say that.
Right.
I saw a few people.
But you're a student of history.
Well, yeah, I'm
heck,
man.
You're a music guy.
Zeppelin's been on a turntable in my house, or my uncle's house, or my cousin's house, or somebody's house as long as I can remember. So I mean. There hasn't been a day that I don't remember a Led Zeppelin song being played somewhere. So
know that first album that they come out with, that they had the picture of the big Zeppelin.
Yeah. Well, that's prominent in this,
that
man.
Was attractive.
This is like, if you like that first album, and this thing is basically how they got to where they got, and it's pretty cool. Well, I know one thing. Tomorrow is set aside for just football. I'll probably sleep in late. Try to sleep in late on Sunday. And that way, because I know Sunday nights it's going to be a long night. Whether we win or lose, it's always We've been there both ways, guys. We've won one and we've lost one.
Are you picking the Chiefs to win?
I don't pick no Super Bowl games, so I don't pick.
You afraid you might jinx it?
Yeah, I never picked in 3 years. I'm not going to start now, so I don't.
I'm going to be at the same place that I watched the other Chiefs victories in the Super Bowl. Some friends of mine down in Lee Summit.
That's good. Same thing.
They got a great theater in the basement of their home. I've seen every Chiefs Super Bowl victory.
That's good.
And in that theater.
Do it again.
The one time that I didn't watch the Super Bowl,
they lost.
They decided not to have the party because of the pandemic. And I watched the Chiefs lost
to Tampa
at
Bay.
my home TV. We all know how that day went.
So we're glad to have you.
I'm going to go down to the where Dieter works, and I'm going to go down there and watch it with 200 people.
Wow.
It's going to be a party down there at the Power and Light.
Does that get a little distracting when you're in amongst that many people?
Nope, not for me.
Yeah, I can't handle the people. I'm a quiet Chiefs watcher. Me and my wife.
Lots of food there too, right?
A lot of food. Yeah,
gonna have a good. Super Bowl Sunday has just got a different feel to it, doesn't it?
It
the
does.
whole day.
It's so weird though.
The whole day you wake up and you're thinking about the big game, and you're going to the. I go to the grocery store and get some food. It just kind of got a different feel to it.
It's been weird though, because for so many years we didn't know what it was like to be in the Super Bowl. And so now it's just.
Ken says it's like when Dylan went electric.
Yeah, exactly. When Bob Dylan went to the
electric
Monterey
guitar.
or the Pop Festival when they were playing
Did
the
they
blues.
have a movie about Bob Dylan?
Yeah, it's kind of it's more of a movie and not a biography. You know what I mean? It's a.
Did you see it?
No, biopic is what they would call that. Now, I'm not as big a Bob Dylan fan as I am. I respect everything.
They had a movie about Bob Marley.
Yeah, they did.
Here a year or so.
I
never saw that.
I don't know if you saw the movie about Amy Winehouse. Have you seen that movie?
No, I haven't.
Man, that is a great movie.
I'll be darned.
She's the one who died.
She was a real.
Oh yeah,
she was a real alcoholic.
Yeah,
to be honest with you,
she knew she had problems and she had a lot of mental.
Hey, you got to watch that movie about Amy Winehouse.
Yeah, I will. I watched a documentary about Robert Johnson, brand new Robert Johnson, the guy who sold his soul at the crossroads to the devil, the one that all the famous songs are. Even Charlie Daniels wrote about it. With the devil went down to Georgia. So. Robert Johnson was, if people don't know who he is, a famous guitar player, black guitar player. Everybody thought he was pretty much just an average to poor guitar player, and then he went away and came back one week, and he was doing things on guitar that nobody had ever seen. And the rumor was, and he was singing about voodoo and hoodoo and stuff, and so the rumor was that he'd sold his soul to the devil to learn how to be able to play the guitar the way he did. So
I learn something new every day, Todd. You're telling me that The Devil Went Down to Georgia by Charlie Daniels is a true story?
It's based off of Robert Johnson's meeting the devil down at the crossroads. You ever seen the movie Crossroads before? With Ralph Macchio, the Karate Kid?
You never watched that movie?
I don't think I saw it.
Boy, that's a good movie, man.
That's a great movie.
It's watching it now.
Stephen Vai's in that.
Steve Vai is in it. He's the devil's guitar player. And when you go to cut heads, which is when you go up against you're playing. So when it's called like a guitar duel, they call it cutting heads. So I'll play a guitar lick and show you my best stuff, and then another guy shows his stuff, and then you try to outdo him, and it's a back and forth play like that. So. Yes, The Devil Went Down to Georgia, all those Crossroads songs. I went down to the Crossroads by, Eric Clapton and those guys, Derek and the Don. I went down to the Crossroads. That's all about Robert Johnson and selling your soul to the devil to get your hands to be able to play the guitar. I don't know. Like you said, there's a lot. You watch that documentary, it's pretty crazy, man. Pretty good stuff.
All right. Thanks.
Well, I'm going to quote what Brian Brown says. Go Chiefs.
Go Chiefs.
Right. Go Chiefs.
Sorry to all you great listeners from Philadelphia area.
Or even out west.
Eagles fans. But we're,
Look, I know a lot of people are cheering.
There's some Eagles fans here in Kansas City.
Look, I know the Raiders fans are cheering against this today.
Right.
and they're in our own division. So let's just all come together, cheer for the Chiefs, get the NFC another
if the
loss.
Eagles come out on top Monday, I'll say God bless you. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Right.
It's going to be a fun game, like you said. I'm not really worried about it. I know we're getting another snowstorm next week.
The Chiefs are going to win, Kirk.
They are.
There you go.
We've been talking about it all year.
All right.
Here we are again.
You
We're back
said it all along, Scott.
He kept saying it, Kirk kept saying it's hard to get back to that Super Bowl.
I kept saying it's hard to win the
hard.
Super Bowl
He kept
one
saying,
time, let alone
You said it's
twice,
hard to get back
which
to
they've
that
done.
Super Bowl.
3 times in a row, it's never been done, but you said it all along.
Right.
Go Chiefs.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to Track Talk. It's all been brought to you by Rod End Supply, featuring the POWRi Midwest Lightning Sprints. Sorry that we didn't get the Connor Wade in.
Yeah, if you want to hear the whole Connor, we listened to part of it. If you want to hear the rest of that interview, Connor Wade, you can go to our podcast. He previews the rest of
Mostly Motorsports.
And he previews
And
the
we'll
rest
be here
of it.
Monday with a fresh new show.
Absolutely.
12 noon.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. For Todd Surprise, for Kirk Elliott, I'm Scott Traylor saying thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week right here on Track Talk.
Go harder, faster, stronger with Rod End Supply. Whether you are running industrial, farming equipment, or a race car, Rod End Supply has the assortment of rod ends, radius rods, and specialty products that will help you lead the field in performance. Our superior design means our rod ends last longer and perform better, giving you the edge on the track and saving you money. Contact Rod End Supply or order online today at rodendsupply.com. We don't just sell them, we race them. rodendsupply.com. Serving the racing community for over 30 years.